morning, students. Here is the third part of our nationalism in India. In the previous part, we read something about the national movement, keeping Gandhi in center. We read something about the Satyagraha movements of Gandhi, 1916, 17, 18, Champaran, Kheda, Ahmedabad. We read the meaning of Satyagraha, that is to insist on speaking truth. In this part, we'll be dealing with the non-cooperation movement and the different strands within the movement. Different strands within the movement means the participation of different group of people from hillside, countryside in the non-cooperation movement. Let us start with our part 3. Different strands within the movement. The non-cooperation Khilafat movement began in January 1921. Various social groups participated in this movement, each with its own specific aspiration, each with its own specific desire. All of them responded to the call of Swaraj, but the term meant different things to different people. The movement started with the middle class participation in the cities. Thousands of students left government controlled schools and colleges. Headmasters and teachers resigned, and lawyers gave up their legal practices. The council elections were boycotted in most provinces except Madras, where the Justice Party, the party of the non-Brahmins, felt that entering the council was one way of gaining some power, something that usually only Brahmins had access to. That is why, except Madras, everywhere the council elections were boycotted. And here also, only the Justice Party, which was the party of the non-Brahmins, they fought the elections. The effects of non-cooperation on the economic front were more dramatic. Foreign goods were boycotted, liquor shops picketed, and foreign cloths burnt in huge bonfires. The import of foreign cloth halved between 1921 and 1922, its value dropping from rupees 102 crore to rupees 57 crore. In many places, merchants and traders refused to trade in foreign goods or finance foreign trade. As the boycott movement spread and people began discarding imported clothes and wearing only Indian ones, production of Indian textile mills and handlooms went up. But this movement in the cities gradually slowed down for a variety of reasons. Khadi cloth was often more expensive than mass produced milk cloth, and poor people could not afford to buy it. How then could they boycott milk cloth for too long? Similarly, the boycott of British institutions posed a problem. For the movement to be successful, alternative Indian institutions had to be set up so that they could be used in place of the British ones. These were slow to come up. So, the students and teachers began trickling back or going back to the government schools, and lawyers joined back work in government courts. Rebellion in the countryside. Rebellion in the countryside. From the cities, the non-cooperation movement spread to the countryside. After the war, the struggles of peasants and tribals were developing in different parts of India. One movement here was against talukadars and landlords, who demanded from peasants exorbitantly high rents and a variety of other cesses or other taxes or other services. Peasants had to do begar. The peasant movement demanded reduction of revenue and abolition of begar and social boycott of oppressive landlords were their demands. Three things: reduction of revenue, abolition of begar, and thirdly, social boycott of oppressive landlords. Audh Kisan Sabha was set up and headed by Jawaharlal Nehru and others within a month. You can also call it as Awadh Kisan Sabha. That time it was Audh Kisan Sabha. Over 300 branches had been set up by the villagers. Tribal peasants interpreted the message of Mahatma Gandhi and the idea of Swaraj in yet another way. The colonial government had closed large forest areas, preventing the people from entering the forest to graze their cattle or to collect fuel, wood, and fruits. The hill people got annoyed because of all this, and in addition, government started forcing them to contribute begar for road building, so they revolted. Why? Because their traditional rights were being violated, and in addition, government wanted them to do begar also. So they revolted. Alluri Sitaram Raju led them. He claimed that he had a variety of special powers. India could be liberated only by the use of force was his belief. Raju was captured and he was executed in 1924 and he became a folk hero in his community. Swaraj in the plantations. Workers too had their own understanding of Mahatma Gandhi and the notion of Swaraj or the idea of Swaraj. For plantation workers in Assam, freedom meant the right to move freely in and out of the confined space in which they were enclosed, and it meant retaining a link with the village from which they had come or from where they had come. Under the Inland Emigration Act of 1859, they were not permitted to leave the tea gardens without permission. When these plantation workers, when they heard of the non-cooperation movement, thousands of workers defied the authorities. They did not listen to the authorities. They left the plantations and headed towards their home. They believed that Gandhi Raj was coming and everyone would be given land in their own villages. But do you think they reached their destination? No, they never reached their destination. They were caught by the police and brutal punishments were given to them. New terms related to this part: boycott is the refusal to deal and associate with people, or participate in activities or buy and use things. It is usually a form of protest. Picket, a form of demonstration or protest by which people block the entrance to a shop, factory, or office. Forced recruitment, a process by which the colonial state forced the people to join the army. It was forcibly done. That is why the name forced recruitment. Begar, labor that villagers were forced to contribute without any payment or a minimal payment. That is the meaning of begar. That's all for the chapter, children. That's all for this part of the chapter. Thank you.